music becomes like a utility in a certain way. So you don't think today about, yes, you pay a power bill for your electrical power based upon how many kilowatts you use, but you don't really think about where it comes from. You don't realize that the power that's in your wall, some's coming from the river, some's coming from the nuclear power plant, some's coming from whatever. You don't think of the complexities of how the system actually gets you power. It just gets you power and it works. And so what he's saying is that music will become part of the service of the internet. And essentially, now every month you pay a certain amount of money to get a high-speed internet connection in your home, and so music and movies and I think he says other things will become kind of part of that billing structure, and you'll be able to consume as much as you can consume. And so a flat rate or a compulsory license for those rights, I think, is going to become something that will probably happen in the future. Consumers, like I said, aren't consuming less; they're just not paying for it. So the number of large artists that are rich, wealthy rap star guys driving around in cars is much smaller. So and they individually have less money because there are the top selling albums today. If you look at the charts, the platinum album that used to stay on the radio for like 5 months and every single would be like another song, that just doesn't happen very often. It almost happens never now. Yeah. And so a successful album now sells millions of copies. A very successful platinum record sells millions of copies, not tens of millions. And so it's almost about the total sales for the albums are off by like 50%, something like that. So what that means is big artists are selling less, still selling a lot, still not starving, okay, but still not selling anywhere like they used to maybe 10 years ago. Mid-tier artists are selling just a few 100,000. And what that means is that the amount of money that they receive for their record contracts isn't enough for them to actually live off of. So if you are 50 Cent, you can live off your music, you can make millions of dollars living off your music. If you're somebody that's more like in a gold record kind of, a gold record used to be like hey, I'm successful. And that means you can have a band, you can be successful, but really what your life is about is touring. So what has happened is now in the United States especially, and in Europe, there's a lot of festivals now, and there's a lot of bands at these festivals, and they're small bands. They're bands with 4 guys, and they go in a van and they tour around, and their income and their lifestyle is probably interesting, but their income is much more in line with somebody who has a normal job. Yes. And there are many, many, many more of those bands now than there ever were before. And part of that is that the consumer taste has fragmented. So these bands address different niches and styles of music, which before everyone was like, okay, I have to listen to Pink Floyd, okay, or whatever the big band of the day was. And now, instead, kids are interested in these small bands, lots and lots and lots of small bands.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think it's very good. I think that there's actually no problem right now with the talent pool. There is more bands touring around more places than ever before. And what's great about that is they're getting to play. And what makes a musician good is actually playing. And nothing gets you to be better at your art than being forced to play your music every night, 6 nights a week, on the road with 4 friends who are out there doing it because they love doing it. And so that's why these guys are out there now. And it's completely different than maybe 10 years ago, where the idea was you get a hit record and then you turn into this like rich guy who occasionally records music, does these big stadium tours. There's just so few of those artists now around, and they're not making as many new ones of those kind of artists as there were at one time. So my advice to record companies would be innovate, develop a new product, make something that is more interesting to consumers and more relevant to today's consumer. Music from the past is kind of like a broadcast medium, where like the record company and the artist's vision was given to the consumer, and the consumer had to accept it or not. That was literally that's how it worked. That's how it's worked for the last several hundred years. Now there's the internet, and it doesn't work that way anymore. You send something to the consumer reflects his vision of it back at you, comments on it, tells you what they think, maybe even responds to you with another piece of art, or does something in response to that. And that's a two-way communication channel, which is really what the internet's about. And so I think the recorded music industry needs to develop a two-way music relationship and product, not a one-way product. Okay, that's one. And then on the consumer side, while I know it's really great to get free anything, it would be great as if there was a new product such as this two-way communication product, if consumers would reevaluate their concept of actually paying money for something so that it can support an ecosystem of people to do that. Yes, there are artists who maybe make too much money and there are artists who make no money, but there's people in the middle who try to actually run the business, and so it is actually a challenge right now. A lot of my friends and other people are having a hard time in the business, and they're good people. A lot of the if there were bad people in the recording music business, a lot of them have left because it's not as much fun as it used to be. So what I would say about that is if consumers could reevaluate that and forgive a little bit of the evils of the past, if the recording music business changes its ways, and I think they will, and I hope consumers will meet them in the middle, and there'll be a happy musical life someday in the future.